Hello everyone, Dan14th Prime here. Thought I'd do a share out video today for you guys on action figure stands. Various dynamic stands and what you might call foot pedestal stands and how they work with 6-inch Marvel Legends action figures or even the builder figures that we can put together from this line. We'll take a look at the ReAction, what I'll call foot pedestal action figure stand that you see there on Mysterio. We'll also take a look at the Neca dynamic figure stand, which is holding up that Venom Build-A-Figure. We've also got Neca foot pedestal stands as well. We'll also look at the Storm Collectibles action figure stand. And finally, the Bandai action figure stand kit of 3. They market more for their humanoid characters, but it works for Marvel Legends too. That's the 5 types of stands we're going to take a look at in terms of compatibility with Marvel Legends, pros and cons of each of them. This is obviously not an exhaustive list, but it's, I think, some good ones and ones I have experience with myself, and I think ones that are generally available when you go out online and look for stands. By the way, links in the description below to pick any of these stands up. As always, if anything on the channel is ever helpful for you, any shopping you do through those links, any shopping at all, supports the channel at no cost to you and is very much appreciated. One other call out, what's not up here and what you won't see in this video is all the different hacks people do, you know, like the sticky tack, magnets and washers and things like this. Not going to get into all of that. They have their own pros and cons, but we're going to keep this video focused on the stands you have in front of you there. All right, let's dive in and check these out one by one. Okay, let's start off with the Neca action figure stand, the foot pedestals. They're about $10 a pack, and you get 10 of these big circular disc pedestals with one little peg in them. So, you know, comes out to about $1 a piece. All the prices I mentioned are probably give or take a couple bucks, just depending on where you're buying, shipping, etc. But about $10 plus shipping probably. Again, made by Neca, so Neca does a similar scale line, so you think they would work pretty well. And I think on the whole, they do. It just sort of depends, and what it depends on a bit seems to be largely the Marvel Legends action figure, because they themselves seem to be a bit inconsistent with the peg in the foot, which is kind of what makes Marvel Legends such a pain in the butt to get stands for. But it works pretty well for this lizard Build-A-Figure, I will say. The hole there and the peg, I think, pretty well work together in terms of firmness in the fit and length of the peg. Here I've grabbed another Marvel Legends, sticking with our Spider-Man theme. And you can see, peg's in nice and firm. I'm basically standing with a leg off the ground, and everything works. So works there, still good. And here I've got Sabretooth. And never mind some of my posing with these figures, I'm just really focusing on the stands. So some of these poses might be bad because they're not posed. But now here we have an issue. It looks okay, but see, it's loose. I tap him, it's tall enough that it's sticking in there still, and the base is big enough that actually he's not toppling over. Get enough sort of footprint there for stability, but the fit of the peg is loose. That just comes right out. And that's a Marvel Legends issue. One of the reasons why it makes it so challenging is just you get different sized footholes, which makes these Neca stands sometimes work and sometimes not. Sometimes they're not thick enough, like in the case with Sabretooth here, and other times they're just too long. I actually can't even get his foot square on the base there because the peg is too long. So you have inconsistencies with kind of width and depth of the peg holes. The fit feels good actually, so it would probably work, but the depth feels like it's a little too long. So with these, you'll find them work better for some than others. I will say, at least on the length part with like Wolverine, you can sort of shave the peg. You know, you can just kind of clip it. Sometimes I'll just take like a wire cutter and you can just kind of snip off the end just a little bit. You could sand it, take a Dremel, kind of grind it down, whatever. But at least the length issue can be fixed if it's too long. So again, Neca pedestal action figure stand, nice and wide. You get stability. You saw Spider-Man stand on one leg. Works really well for some, not so well for others, depending on the figure, but at about $1 a piece, you know, they're good to have in a collection and pretty handy. So next up here on the foot pedestals, we have the ReAction action figure stands. Again, about $10 for 10. One of those 10 is that funky pink looking one. Now these are more for, it says 3.75-inch ReAction figures, but Obviously, they do work for Marvel Legends as well, as it's working here for Mysterio. Now, the good thing about the ReAction stands is it's like a shorter, fatter nub. So it can fill in some of those gaps that we had with like the Neca stands if the peg is too long and or too thin. But obviously you can see here, it's a much smaller base in terms of just stability. So see, you just give him a little bit of a bump and he's going to topple over. Well, the Mysterio's kind of back heavy already, so it's maybe not entirely fair, but obviously you just don't get the degree of stability you do with this huge disc, right? I mean, this thing is twice as wide as that. And again here, probably difficult to see, but just so I can say I showed you, I mean, this nub is fatter and shorter. So it was fitting well in Mysterio. The Neca stand for Mysterio obviously is loose because it's a thinner nub. The ReAction stand works a bit better. One other drawback about ReAction, because it's for 3.75 inch figures, you can't just like place it face forward like that. These things have a little lip on the front, and a 6-inch scale figure, his foot is too big. So you need to kind of just angle it like that. It's fine. You can turn it to the side, not a big deal, but you do find yourself needing to manage a little bit this lip, you know, and sometimes you come off the stand at certain angles. So not perfect, but again, $10 for about 10 of them. Plus, let's not forget the great pink extra. We all want that. Again, handy to have in a collection. It fills in some gaps where the Neca stand can't do the job, or if you just you want something a bit more discreet where you don't want a big stand like this because you're not trying to be as dynamic. These provide a bit more stability, much more discreet. So again, at about $1 a piece, you know, worth having a few of these handy in the collection. Okay, up next, let's go into the dynamic action figure stands. This one here is the Neca dynamic figure stand. Again, about $10 for one stand. Pretty hefty duty, obviously holding up a Build-A-Figure here. So it speaks to the versatility and the balance the stand provides. I will say it's kind of struggling. This is a big Build-A-Figure, this Venom guy. It's kind of struggling. The main drawback I've experienced over time with the Neca stand is just how these things plug together. Like right there's a plug, and it's probably, maybe you can see a bit on camera, but I mean, it's just not liking supporting all that weight with just a little nub connection here. So this really wears out over time, gets a bit sort of cracked, stressed. When you try to use it, especially for like bigger figures like this. I might even use this on like some pack figures. So again, big stand, can handle some weight. If you're using just 6-inch figures, it's not going to be an issue, but as you start to move up in the figures, it's definitely going to wear on the stand. Let's go in closer on the stand here. I'll use some black contrast on these dynamic stands so we can get a better look at them. So you get adjustable, the easiest, adjustable height. So you can really kind of bring this thing down low, which would basically be just a standing pose, right? And then you can escalate, elevate, whatever, by pushing this thing up. Get some kind of traction through there. You get them up in the air a bit more. Again, nice kind of wide base down there. Here at the end, just sort of pivoting. Nice tension there, nice and tight. Pivot movement. And then this just plugs into there. And that's where I've mentioned all the stress. Look at that. All the stress that thing has taken kind of over the years. Definitely pretty well beat up. I mean, it's a nice healthy peg still, but it seems like if it could have been even longer, it would help, especially when you try to make use on a bigger figure. And then a peg here, you know, and you can plug that in. So that's how all that works. And this obviously can plug in different ways to get you different types of angles. So nothing sort of pivots or rotates, but your ability to just remove and rotate yourself can help with the posability. And then you have this clamp, which is one of the more versatile aspects of the stand relative to others. So look how narrow that can get, you know, look how wide that can get. So not a lot that will hold a Build-A-Figure as thick and big as that Venom was, but this stand can do it. It's not perfect in terms of getting around them, but you saw it could hold them. And then of course works well in kind of your 6-inch scale all the way down. So nice stand, $10 for one. I will say here, one other thing that you get, which I probably just throughout whenever I opened this one up years ago, but you get like suction cups as well. So you can literally like take this bottom base and just attach it to suction cups. You know, so it said it'll adhere to any smooth surface or most smooth surfaces, but you could have them come off the side of a Detolf cabinet or something like that as well. So that would be pretty cool if you've got glass display in particular to use that feature. So yeah, this NECA action figure stand, I think a nice one to have in the collection. You know, bigger footprint here, maybe to the downside. But in terms of what we're looking at today, it's one of the overall most reliable, dependable, most flexible for any sort of pose and variations of sizes of figures, action figure stand that you'll find. Next up here with the dynamic action figure stands, we have the stand from Storm Collectibles, just from the packaging, so never mind that. It's about a $7 stand, again, just for one here. So this stand here again, variations of height. Let me just kind of show it to you all the way up there. And they're just for reference how high up he gets relative to a standing 6-inch action figure. So he's probably good call 8 inches up in the air at the waist clip. This waist clip also can elevate. Nice clicks. So you can get him even more straight up, like you see here. And then if we just bring it all the way down, just like that. And again, that waist clip would sort of comes to like the mid-torso. So again, kind of standing type pose could be used for that. So versatile. Love these little clips. These things actually have springs in them. So bam, you can feel that. You can see these things just want to snap in and grab, which I love. None of the other stands have this. So I like that. And you actually get two sizes, even a bigger one here. And the big one is big enough to go around as well your Build-A-Figure types, like Venom. Probably even better than the NECA one. Get a nice grip with the spring, and it actually comes around a bit to the front of the waist. So it covers even a bit better than NECA. So the stand also rotates here for that clip, which was on here. You can put them anywhere out to the sides of the pole. You know, more than 180 degrees all the way around. See, it even kind of goes slight to the back. You can't get all the way around, obviously, because the pull is there. And then you get this nice ratchet up and down as well. And then the spring there. So, like this Storm Collectible stand, again, $7. You get different placement options. You can put here in the foot, 5 different areas. Or if you had 2, you could like put 2 of these together and have a aerial fighting scene or something like that going. So like this, if I'm recommending one of these, it's definitely the Storm Collectibles, I think. It just feels the best. The materials feel good. The spring-loaded clip feels good. Again, 2 sizes for that. The ratchet there, nice stiff ratchet. You know, this escalation thing feels better than the NECA one as well. So at $7, I think it's definitely the best value, and I would even say probably the best quality and functionality with the clips and stuff in particular of the action figure dynamic stands we're looking at today. Love this stand. And then last up here for the dynamic action figure stands is the Bandai Kit. You get 3 bases for about like $15, so call them $5 a pop. You do actually get like 4 arms, so there's 3 there, and then I've got an extra one over here. And you'll see how these can be used on the base. You could have more than 1 arm plugged in. So again, these Bandai stands, technically for their little humanoid line. So I think when you start to use Marvel Legends, you're pushing a bit the weight limit that these stands can do. They're mainly all kind of friction-based, highly articulated, adjustable stands. But they do work. Definitely, they can work for Marvel Legends. We'll just add quickly, in the kit, you get all kinds of other types of stand accessories. See little hooks like this. These aren't going to work for your Marvel Legends, so I'm not going to spend any time on them, but just to give you a sense of what's all in your $15 pickup, some other purchases, some other hooks, things like that as well. If we check out these stands, a few things, maybe... Actually, I've moved these guys around and no one has fell, so it speaks a bit to some decent stability with these stands. That being said, these are nothing like the Storm collectible or the Neca stands in terms of really being able to grab a figure and really position it in place with sort of some either very tight friction joints or even ratchets like we saw. This is all friction. Pretty good, I think. Let's kind of push it here. How hard can we get our Venom to lean? That's about it right there. It's going down. So, you know, you can't quite get them 45 degrees probably, and it's going to start to take it down. Let me just kind of pull these guys off here. And let's take a look at what we have up here. So here, it's kind of cool. You can see I have two stands, and they hook together. So you can hook two stands together with these little attachment pieces that they give you. So that's cool. I want to create little fighting scenes, sort of like what I had going on there. Again, dynamic. These things swivel. You know, the twist in the base. Get a back and forth arm here. Get one here at the midpoint. One here at the top as well. And then the hook can spin as well. Now the hook, it's one of the biggest weaknesses of this stand. It's just using friction. So you don't even really get a clasp bit. Like with Neca, at least you get like a clasp. With Storm, you got like a spring clasp. Secured, always kind of applying pressure type clasp. With Neca, you could kind of lock something. This is just friction. You can just kind of squeeze it in, and that's what you're going to get. Definitely not big enough to use on any Build-A figures. You're just not going to get all the way around it. And even for some Marvel Legends like Doc Ock, which we'll take a look at here, it gets to be a bit much, really. This won't really work. So it's limited. You know, we're stretching its intended use for sure, but it is cool. I mean, being able to put these together. You know, I had like Sabretooth and Wolverine kind of diving at each other. You can do things like that, and it'll reliably stay. Also, different punch outs here. You can put the stand in any of three spots on, or put the pole, excuse me, on any three spots on the stand. So again, you could kind of create dioramas even with one, or, I mean, why not? For a 6-inch figure, you might as well just put two together. Do your diorama that way, because you'll need the space. So that's cool, you know, you get that option, that's unique. I think if we bring this one in, here we got Doc Ock up there. He is on a different type of grip. You can see the base is the same. This is a unique arm. You get a side to side there, as well as like your up and down there. So you get sort of like an extra ball joint in there. And actually even one up here as well with another one. So interestingly, only one of these arms, you get more articulation in it. And it did have a bit of a different grip as well. So it's kind of got that same limited hook, but then it's kind of got this crotch grabber underneath as well, which is needed for someone like Doc Ock. He's wider. I mean, there's no way. You know, there's just no way if it was the hooks alone that don't even go around him, would he hold. But with the crotch grabber, he's kind of just sits in there. So just one of those. It would be nice if you got actually all three arms and connections like this. So I think for the money, for the 15 bucks, you get a bit more here, and it'll serve some purposes for sure. But overall, it's not the build quality or stability of the Neca or Storm stand. Let me get the Storm and the Neca stand side by side. Just do a bit of comparison, might be helpful for you. You can see obviously with Storm, you're probably dang near close to 2 inches higher. However, Neca can then do this and rotate up here and get even higher. The drawback then becomes they don't really have a 90-degree peg out there to get your figure back sort of flat. So the hook ends up facing straight up there as well, which could work for like a Superman or a flying type pose, Iron Man type thing, but isn't going to work in every instance. But definitely gets you the most overall height. Let me just do the same for Storm here. Get that nice ratchet. But there you go, and you can see just that spring grip, just like grabs them. I mean, those figures go nowhere. And Neca, you sort of just have them clasp and they're kind of floating around in there. That gives you a sense for their max heights. It gets a bit closer there. And then again here with Storm, you can spin this around at different angles. As you can with Neca, you just have, it's like hexagonal, so you have to sort of lift it and shift it a bit, but you can get the same effect. And then with Neca, you know, you've got the pull variation that you can use as well. So you've got that extra flexibility there. In either height or, again, if you're shooting him off to the side, you know, this starts to look a little bit more like the Storm in terms of just having the figure straight across, you know, without the extended length there to get him away more from the stand. So that's kind of a handy feature of Neca sometimes, is to kind of put them out a bit more in space, if you will. Can look pretty cool. Okay, just so I can say I showed you, I'll drop in the Bandai stand here on the right as well. You can see obviously you don't get near the elevation that you do with the other two stands. I think the one thing that's interesting though, again, is just the flexibility you have with the pole, right? So, and it all depends on how big the figure is going to be and how much it's going to weigh. But look at that, you can really get like a forward lunge effect. Can't do that with the other ones. But then not only that, you could rotate it like that. So kind of lunging even to the side. And I guess you'd have to play with it a little bit, because right there he wants to kind of, the base isn't wanting to support him. But you could connect some bases as well and maybe get a little bit more of a footprint to support it, or put some weight on the back. But the point is, with all of the bends in the arm, a lot more ability for just some dynamic craziness going on, and or I think better for, you know, having two figures side by side, you know, in a aerial dynamic fighting type position. It works best for that. So it has its advantages. All right, guys, so there you have it. An overview of some of the action figure stands you can find out there. Again, links in the description below if you're interested in picking any of these up. Any shopping you do those links supports the channel at no cost to you and is very much appreciated. In summary, you probably need them all. No, I mean, they just serve different needs for different purposes. You know, if you've got enough going on in your collection, I think they can all fit in and serve a purpose and fit a different type of need, so it's handy to have them all. But of course, you've got some flavor for them all now, so pick whatever works for you best and suits your particular needs. Again, links in the description below if you're picking any of these stands up. Appreciate you going through those links. Thanks for checking in. See you next time.